back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Joel.
And our opening question today is, what reality TV show is or was your guilty pleasure show?
Dun, dun, dun.
Because I don't think you can enjoy a reality TV show without it being like guilty pleasure.
I like that.
You know, because everyone kind of shames you for liking it.
But isn't that shame internal too? Isn't there something deep down inside? It's like, I shouldn't watch this slow-moving car crash and get enjoyment from it.
It's true, depending on what it is. Like, I used to watch The Bachelor solely because my grandma Lorna watched it and, like, meticulously kept notes next to her, like, recliner because she couldn't remember everybody, and so she would take notes on them so she could remember for the next time. So I had to watch it so we had something to talk about because she was going to remember everything, so I, had to take notes. But now I would say, like, the Great British Baking Show has a chokehold on my life. I am obsessed. Holiday edition, it doesn't matter. I watch them all. I love it.
My sister, she was probably about 10 at the time. I think she's like 13 now, but she was obsessed with the Great British Baking Show when she was that age, and just constantly, when I would come home, she's sitting there watching on Netflix by herself.
I know.
Abby's calling you a 10-year-old.
I am. And do I bake? No. Can I cook? No. But, like, I'm obsessed with these cooking shows.
Good. Yeah.
They're all cheering for each other. When I've watched some of it with Megan, it's like, oh, it's a competition, but they like
each other.
Yeah.
They're friends.
Yeah. It's not like American baking shows where they're like, I'm going to kill the other people if I don't win.
Like a Hell's Kitchen kind of thing. Those people literally will eliminate you.
Yeah, it's a nice, healthy competition.
It is. Yeah. And also their accents. I mean, just talk to me all day. It's fine. Not a big deal.
It's just the way that they talk.
Yeah.
You treat them like they're like, oh, look, they talk they sound so intelligent and proper.
They actually do.
Just where they grew
up. I can't
up.
see Joel watching reality TV at all. So let me hear it.
I mean, I just don't. I'm like very judgmental about reality TV show, and I love scripted television, if anything. So, this was really hard because I haven't watched it in so long. And probably the last time I watched reality TV, I was probably in high school watching American Idol with my family.
Yeah.
There was like one season, and I don't even remember who won, but they never made it very big outside of winning American Idol. But I just remember it was like event television in our house for a while.
Yeah.
Hollywood Week, and you had the tryouts where like somebody told them they could sing.
Yeah,
Grandma lied to you.
that was always so sad.
Grandma lied to you,
So
man.
sad.
This is not for you. But like, it's not my jam.
Yeah. We used to watch American Idol too. I forgot about that.
It's still on, you guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't watch it anymore. But Kelly
Clarkson,
Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, like some of those people, I'm like, they came from nowhere.
That's
amazing.
Wild to think about.
Yeah. What about you, Abby?
Yeah, so in high school, I went through a phase where I just like watched different TLC shows through YouTube clips. And so like I'd get done with my schoolwork for the day and I'd just turn on YouTube and watch different things. And I think the one I probably watched the most was My Strange Addiction. It fascinated me watching these weird things these people were addicted to.
The lady ate the inside of her couch cushions.
Yeah. There are so many disgusting ones. I can't believe
let's just be entertained by these sicknesses that people have.
And now we look at it differently. We're like,
that's so sad.
They actually needed some help.
Yeah,
and instead we just subjected them to TV.
Well, in one way, Allison, that's how all reality TV is. Everybody on there needs a lot of help, and we're just watching them.
That's true.
No, my ridiculous take on reality TV, especially when it comes to like The Bachelor and Bachelorette, I'm just like, this is the most evil way to try to make human connection, to turn it into a game, and then you're like want people to actually be together forever and fall in love. I'm like, no wonder we are so screwed up. Like if we're entertained by this like game show version of relationships where these are two real people,
they
like
really
real
are.
people,
Yes.
and we turn it into this like we can't wait and
watch
it happen and pop the popcorn and drink some wine.
I know they have families, like all these things, and you're like, oh. But
So our first topic today is a Polygon article by Zasha Millman titled, "Should Jury Duty's duped star Ronald be eligible for TV's highest acting honor?" Jury Duty is a TV show that chronicles the inner workings of an American jury trial through the eyes of juror Ronald Gladden. What Ronald doesn't know is that everything has been faked for his sake. The court case is fake, the judge, fellow jurors, and everyone else he meets are actors. It's a real-life Truman Show.
What do people usually say when they're trying to get out of this?
I'm only going off of thinking I've seen on Family Guy.
Wait, what was it?
I've seen Peter pretend to be racist to get out of jury duty.
Would you be able to be a good juror for this matter?
Sir.
I'm racist.
Sir, please have a seat.
I don't know why I said that.
Eliminate that for the next time.
Totally. Yeah, that's a stupid idea.
The jury duty.
The big question now is if Ronald should be eligible for winning an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, since he was unaware he was an actor at the time of filming. He would be up against big names like Bill Hader and Jason Sudeikis, who won last year. Some argue that Ronald unintentionally was doing an improv performance, navigating around the weird scenarios he was thrown into. Others argue that Ronald's performance is better likened to a reality star rather than a mockumentary lead. The whole thing is essentially a game, and Ronald is just running through it. So what are your guys' thoughts? I know I sent you guys some clips. I've watched the whole series, but you guys haven't yet.
No.
So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think that Ronald should be eligible for an Emmy?
I just can't wait to get off the podcast so I can watch more of this show.
Yes.
Because I just watched the pilot, and Abby told me about this, and I've had two other friends from separate circles be like, have you watched Jury Duty yet? I'm like, no, I haven't yet.
Yeah.
And it is so funny.
It's very Office style. It's so good.
But knowing that the Ronald has no idea at the time, it's just so hysterical.
Yeah.
And the interplay with James Marsden, who's actually a movie star who plays hopefully an exaggerated version of himself and how self-important he is. Oh my goodness, I'm just dying. I think it's so funny. So I love the fresh creativity of it. I mean, growing up and seeing the Truman Show and having those moments as a kid when you're like, am I in the Truman Show? Having that kind of a moment. It's just hilarious to think that you're watching this guy and everybody else is a paid actor. It's funny to me.
But I also have a hard time putting him on the same level with Ted Lasso.
Oh, well, well that comes to my second part of like, he's not acting. He's not an actor. Let's not denigrate. Let's not denigrate like the art of acting and things like that. I mean, he is a reality show in this way.
Yes.
You know, he has no idea, but it's really entertaining.
Yeah,
it's really entertaining.
But I don't think he's up for an Emmy. Like,
no.
Yeah. He's literally just being a normal dude.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude.
But also, there's really no way he thinks everybody else is like just a normal person too.
Well,
like I have such a hard time. I'm like, does he? I don't know. I'm looking at him sideways a little bit.
I've watched interviews from it, and so they said that anytime that he started to kind of question it, because he makes comments sometimes where he's like, this feels like a reality show. Anytime that he would make comments like that, they would pull back and just make it the blandest jury court case they could, so that he would stop questioning and be like, yeah, no, if we're talking about this, you know,
it must be real.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I'm just sitting here thinking with some of those clips that we saw, I'm like, there is no way he doesn't think this is fake. Like,
it had to be the balance of the ridiculous with like really boring, everyday life kind of jury duty stuff.
But it looks fascinating. I am interested to watch more.
Oh my gosh!
And they proposed it to him as if he's part of this documentary, so he knows that there's cameras there filming stuff and things like that, so that's how they were able to get away with some of that stuff. But my next question is, do you think a show like this could continue? I know a lot of people say, it's gotten too popular, people would know that it's
kind of like
happening.
the undercover boss kind of thing, where like after you've seen a couple episodes or whatever, you're like, how do these people not know that this is a episode of that? I don't know. I feel like it would be hard after, probably the second season or something to get away with something like that.
I tend to agree, but then also what's interesting about media right now is, unlike ever before, media and viewership is so splintered because there's millions of different ways to watch things. To where I feel like I am pretty plugged into pop culture, TV, and movies, and I'm like, I kept hearing about this jury duty show, and I had no idea what the plot of it was. I knew it was a comedy is all I knew. To where I feel like for a while, because so many people are not just watching what I did growing up, which was ABC, CBS, NBC, Nickelodeon, and now it's so spread to where, there might only be 10 million people watching this show, which is a lot of people. But when you think about a country of over 300 million and they have no idea what you're talking about, they could roll this for a while. And it might just be niche comedy enough that a lot of the people just wouldn't know about
true.
this. And if
Yeah.
you change the premise, so it's not just jury duty, but
Yeah.
it's different kind of
Something else.
ridiculous kind of
Yeah.
premises. I bet it could run for a while.
Yeah.
Or they could get it all set up, get somebody in there. They're like, hey, am I on that? And then
Right.
just cut it and
Yeah.
bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
Bring somebody else
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
It's gonna
That's
be
true, too.
the gullible show.
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's really creative. I think it's really funny. I don't think he should be eligible for an Emmy because he's not acting; he's just
Yeah,
living.
yeah.
But man, this is some reality TV that I could get behind, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
If
you
we're
heard it
on
here
with this.
first.
Yeah.
It's not in writing, but it's out there for
Yeah.
all the world to hear.
No, I think my other point with them continuing the show is I've seen interviews with Ronald after it was revealed and stuff, and he said that it messed with him psychologically because like he called up James Marsden afterwards and he goes, I feel like there's still cameras following me, and he was like, and so he was like super stressed
Truman
out and
Show.
had to like take a month off of work and stuff. So it's like, should they continue it?
Right, yeah. Like,
from a
oh, that
moral
hurts my
standpoint.
heart.
like,
Yeah.
It's like the old Jurassic Park question. You were so concerned if you could do this, you
Yeah,
never stopped and
yeah.
asked the question, should
Yeah,
we do
yeah.
this?
Also, the fact that you could call up a famous actor
Yeah,
should
yeah.
show you, like, oh, yep, it's a real thing, and you're fine, buddy. You're fine.
He was
Yeah.
in 27 Dresses and Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, it's so important.
Yeah.
Him trying to convince people on the show how famous he was so funny to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man.
It's so good. So our second article today is a Relevant Magazine article by Emily Brown titled Carl Lentz Addresses His Scandal, New Church Position and FX Documentary. FX is releasing a documentary titled The Secrets of Hillsong on May 19th. It will be a 4-part documentary series about the megachurch's scandals, including sexual misconduct, money laundering, and tax evasion. It features the first interviews with former pastors Carl and Laura Lentz since their public dismissal from the church after Carl's extramarital affair and addictions became public. Carl released a public statement about his involvement with this documentary. For the last 3 years, my entire focus has been fighting for my wife and my kids. My family was and is my number one priority. In order to do that, seeking sobriety and healing had to run parallel with those goals. He says repairing his relationship came with a lot of humiliation, embarrassment, and heartache. Part of the healing from that heartache led us to the decision to be part of a documentary that we do not control, that we don't have any say in, and that we haven't even seen yet. We'll see it when the world does. We were not interested in blame shifting or responsibility deflection. We focus on my mistakes and the context of what transpired. I can honestly tell you that when you get to a place of honesty and freedom in your life, when you've gone through hell and you realize God is still with you, it is so freeing. It's the freedom I wish for all of the many people that I know that are called by God and wrestle with secrets and the feeling of not being worthy. Trust me, it led me to some dark places. Now, that's just part of his statement. We'll link the article that has the full statement in the show notes. But what did you guys think about Carl's statement?
I mean, I liked parts of it. I mean, I don't think I disagreed with anything he said in the statement. I appreciate the not blame shifting and or responsibility deflection. I think that's really important, and it's important for him to recognize what was most important, which was his family during this time out of the spotlight, and sort of owning up to the damage that was done, I guess, as much as you can do in a couple paragraphs. So I guess kudos inside of that. I just struggle with the notion of, like, coming back into the public eye and, like, doing things. It feels like this is a PR blitz. There's the documentary, there's this release. He's taken a new job at a church, even though it's sort of in the background, sort of more administration side of a church. I'm just like, this feels like what happens when someone's trying to rehabilitate their public reputation and image management. And again, that's coming from probably some cynicism and just some things that have painted my understanding of this in the past. I'm just a little bit tired of or leery of people that were at some kind of celebrity pinnacle of the Christian machine, the big church thing, and it just always seems like they're incapable of just quietly serving God and, like, doing something without TV cameras or without a platform. And for Carl's story, I mean, for anyone's story who's had a fall from grace, some kind of moral failure, there's a danger to celebrity that we've talked about on the podcast before, where I don't think celebrity in and of itself is evil, but there might be this reality in us innately as humans where like celebrity is just too heavy of a thing for us to carry. We weren't created to be worshipped. And I'm just kind of sad, not kind of sad, I am sad that it seems like he's running back to that same big machine and trying to rehabilitate his image so that he can get back to the top, and whatever the air quotes top might be for this. So nothing inside of this statement, really ruffled my feathers. I was like, okay, that's good. He's not blame shifting. He's not saying all this kind of stuff. I just wonder, like, why are you going on a documentary to share all this? And like, you're even saying you don't have control over what happens.
Right.
And I'm like, I guess, but like, why can't you just go and live your life, love your family, go serve Jesus and the people that you're neighbors with? If you want to have a creative outlet, have a creative outlet. It just feels very American businessy and not very like out in the wilderness just doing your thing, New Testament.
Yeah.
In that way. So that's kind of my double-edged idea.
Well, and that's, kind of for me, part of it is like, why are you trying to like benefit or profit from this trauma that you have caused your family? Like, you talk about how it was humiliating and embarrassing and, all the heartache that it caused and all the work that you've had to do to, save your relationships. And then now you're just throwing it out there again for this documentary. It's like, was it, I don't know. Like, for me, I'm like, I would not want my family to have to relive that. The comments that are going to come, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like the keyboard warriors that are going to be out there. Like, why would you want to throw yourself out there in this way? I just, for me, I don't understand it. Like, if there has been healing or there is healing and it's continuing, like, that's amazing. Like, stay on that road. Like, why, again, just dig it all back up for money or for status or for image?
We're painting that.
Like,
he's not getting paid for this documentary. Like, that's not the way these things work.
Hope not.
No. So I don't want to throw that out there without any understanding of it.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, I'm just like, I don't understand why you would even want to do it.
Well, he says here, I think he says the reason why is because he wants people to know and feel the freedom that he feels now that he's hit the bottom and where God has saved him from. Or when you've gone through hell, you realize that God is with you. It's so freeing. It's the freedom that I wish so many people would know. So there's an element of, it's just things that we all believe, that like your greatest ministry, your greatest testimony will come from your darkest moments. Like, there's all those kind of things. The unknown, to speak to what you're saying, is like, is this something that it's his idea, or is it something that like his spouse and his family are like, that we do want God to use this, and we do want there to be something that can happen? Because to give a benefit of the doubt, like, man, that'd be a different thing if my spouse that I had done that to is like, no, like, let our terrible experience be useful for people, to help people in that way. And so I think that's the power of those failure stories, is that your failure is not your most defining thing. You just hope that that's like a family thing, and not
he has kids. And I don't know. I just think about that, like my own kids. Like, there's, I can't see a reason, even if I thought that it could, I don't know, maybe benefit one person. I'm like, I have to look at these people that I have created, that I live with, that I don't know. For me personally, it would just be a hard no. Like, I would want to use it in the local church, like people that I interact with who know me and have a relationship with me, but I don't think I'd feel the need to blast it out there for the world. I don't know. But that's where we're different. Me and Carl. In lots of ways. In lots of ways. In lots of ways.
It's strange though. It just feels like it's right back to the same playbook. And do we not know how we got here? It's like Jurassic Park. Second Jurassic Park reference on this episode. It's like they go back and they build another park and they do the dinosaur thing again. And then a third. Is there 6 movies now? I don't even know, man.
Yeah. I know we touched on this a little bit, but my second question is, do you think it was wise for them to agree to participate in this documentary? I mean, for me, I am really focused on the fact that this is a documentary they have no control over. It could just use whatever they say to paint them in an even worse picture. Not saying that that will happen, but they're going into this not knowing what this documentary is going to do with what they said.
Yeah, and it's like the first rule of any kind of journalism, though. If it bleeds, it leads, right? Like, they're going to tell the most devastating, compelling story that's going to get people glued to it. Yeah. And I just can't imagine ever agreeing to, like, be a part of something that I can't even, like, have any kind of control over, or at least say in how it's edited, because you can edit things to make it do whatever you want. And so, yeah, part of me is like, I just don't think that's wise. And especially, you know, filmmaking crew or directors that there's some other peripheral damage, you know, just to like the church, like capital C church and Christians, that like it can paint in a really terrible way to where like this is how everything is. And I mean, there's just so many places where I think it's just dangerous and not wise. I think Carl would say, look at me defending Carl Lentz. But I think he would say, like, well, part of why I don't want to have control over it is so I can not shift blame, and it can just get out there so people can't say I didn't take responsibility for what I did. That's probably where that's coming from. But, man, it just feels like there's way too much area that there could be damage instead of the possibilities of good things coming from that.
Yeah. I feel like it could have ended with the statement that he released. I don't think he needed to go into this documentary and things like that. I don't know. It feels like a little bit of like a narcissistic, any attention is good attention. And yeah. I don't know. That's what I think about it. I have a bad eye looking at this, but
I also have a bad eye. So I get that. I just, you know, like you said, Joel, like if things have been restored and he's got this new position at a new church and he's doing things, you know, for the kingdom, then let's just keep doing that. Like, why do we, I don't know, why are we going back to this? That's what I don't understand. So,
okay.
Well, only time will tell.
Yep. So our next question is, what is the best documentary you've ever watched? We were talking about this with Nico, our Next Gen pastor, earlier, and we kind of agreed that there's not really many good documentaries, like ones that
like
make
happy.
you feel good afterwards.
There's lots of good documentaries.
Yeah,
I've got
a
one.
lot. You have one?
Mine is
Okay.
for sure.
Okay, yeah, we watch too many crime documentaries.
Yes.
Oh
I guess.
no! I love biopics. I love
Okay.
like stories of people's lives and what they've overcome and what they've accomplished in the different world because of it. The music documentaries is number one, but I talk too much about music on the podcast, so I had to side my top 5 rockumentaries.
Okay.
But I mean, honestly, it was really quick for me, and both of them are like happy documentaries.
Okay.
One was the 2018 documentary about Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers.
Yes.
Won't You Be My Neighbor?
I never watched it.
I actually saw it in theaters with my wife and my in-laws, and like, I'm a crier at movies, but I was like ugly crying during this documentary because like here is this quiet, unassuming guy who was a person of faith but lived his faith with action and quietness, and was so open and loving to so many different types of people throughout periods of time when kids were thought of one way and race relations was thought of one way. He was so subversive in the way he did things. That was like also like everybody could come to the table. It was just so beautiful. And he had passed away at the time this documentary was done. So his wife got on and spoke about him and just made him a real person. And seeing his kids talk about him, and oh my gosh, it was just so beautiful. I want to go watch it again. And it was just this great reminder of whatever we do in our lives, how it is for the benefit of the community and loving and letting people know that they are loved. It's really, really cool. The other one was a documentary. I'm looking this up right now because I want to make sure I get the title right. Yes, it was RBG. It was another documentary in 2018 about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late Supreme Court Justice.
You're right.
And it's really, really cool, like beyond like maybe specific her personal politics and all that kind of stuff. It was just fascinating hearing her story, going through law school, and she was the only woman in her class, and how weird it was, and how all she had to fight through to be a woman who was a lawyer, to being picked for the Supreme Court, and how she stuck to her guns, and she was classic for the dissenting voice on the court of being like, I'm going to lose, but I'm going to write this like big essay about why I think that everybody else is wrong. And like she would just stand there in it. And I mean, she's just an incredible story of someone who had this like true north moral understanding of right and wrong for herself. And had this position of power, but held it with grace. And it was really cool, too, because it talked about her friendship with Anthony Scalia, who was, if RBG is like a liberal justice, Anthony Scalia was like a uber conservative justice. So they were kind of polar opposites, but they were friends, even though they disagreed on almost everything when it came to their job. And so that was just an awesome picture of people being different. But yeah, they're both 2018. It was a good year for docs. But I love both of them. They were both inspiring, really good. I love documentaries. It's so funny. You guys say you haven't seen good documentaries.
Oh, I've seen a lot of good documentaries.
Yeah,
just not a lot that leave me feeling great at the end.
Because just the same reality TV stuff we're still talking about.
Because I watch a lot of serial killer, small town murder kind of documentaries. I like learning about why people do the things they do, like what makes them tick, why do they behave this way, what makes you build a cabin in the woods and blow people up. Like I want to know so I can spot that in the event.
Unabomber reference?
Yeah. But I've also watched like some sports documentaries about scandals and stuff like that, which I also like. You know, the Pistons and Pacers brawl, like the Danbury Trashers, in case you've never seen it, a minor league hockey team that was run by like a mafia-connected kingpin. Oh my God.
I'm in. What's that called? I'm writing
the
it down.
Danbury, Danbury Trashers. But it's I think on Netflix it was called Untold Crimes and Penalties. There's like a series, okay, you guys, because it was good. Is it Manti
Te'o?
Yes, okay, there's one on him too. Yep. So I like those kinds of things that have really happened, you know. But one that I would say isn't probably my favorite, but the one that I still remember to this day that I had to watch in college and write, you know, paper on in this communications class I was in, is called The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. It's interesting to say the least, but it follows the members of the White family, and they live in Boone.
I see what they did there.
You're right. Boone County, West Virginia, for a year after like their patriarch dies. D. Ray White, may he R.I.P. But anyways, he became one of the most famous like mountain dancers. Don't ask me to show you what that looks like because, but like the younger generations of his family are into like drugs and crime and fighting and just all sorts of reckless behavior. And the show is fascinating, but not, you know, your typical feel-good documentary because they're a mess. But to this day, I still remember this documentary. So thank you, Professor Dar, for making me watch that and sticking it in my brain for all of eternity.
Yeah. See, I'm the same way where like I don't know what my favorite is, but one that has stuck with me is, so this is a podcast like documentary series, but Wondery is the podcast company and they do so many different ones. Like if I'm looking for a podcast, I'm gonna go check theirs first. They do such a good job with the production, interviews, research, all of that. But when I heard a bunch of buzz around the Tiger King, when that documentary came out, I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a podcast and figure out who this guy is. And so Wondery had one. It was season 2 of their show Over My Dead Body. Season 2 was titled Joe versus Carol, and it was so interesting to hear this side of the podcast because it painted Joe Exotic in such a different light than what the TV show did, because there were so many people that were like defending Joe Exotic and stuff, but this podcast, like I listened to a couple episodes, I'm like, this guy's messed up, this guy is the one in the wrong.
But Carol Baskin,
yeah, but it just had so much more information. I listened to this before I watched the documentary series on Netflix, and I think this just stuck with me just because it was interesting to see different viewpoints from, Wondery versus Netflix and stuff. And so,
Well, and then when we were looking it up today, you said there's 3 seasons of Tiger King, or maybe Nico did. But
yeah, Nico said that.
I've only heard of 2, so now I'm going to have to deep dive, find season 3 of Tiger King.
Yeah.
Still in jail? I don't know.
Well, I heard he's running for president next year.
Of course he's running for
can't
president.
wait.
I keep getting his TikTok show up on my phone.
Why would he not run for president?
And my phone is in here, so now I'm going to get Joe Exotic TikToks too. Oh no. The tragedy.
Well, talking about Tiger King, I feel like we should just go back to washing our groceries and doing sourdough starters, early pandemic stuff right there.
It really is true.
So our final article today is a Playbill article by Andrew Gans and Logan Colwell-Block titled His Story Musical Makes World Premiere in Texas starting May 6. His Story is a Broadway-style musical written by Anna Miriam Brown, a 21-year-old from Dallas, Texas. She wrote the music and lyrics for it when she was only 17 and living in Africa with her missionary parents and siblings. The website for the show says His Story, the musical, is a Broadway-style theatrical event 2,000 years in the making. In this new contemporary pop musical based on the life of Jesus, a common man from an obscure family arrives in the big city and defies expectations. He speaks great wisdom but chooses friends from the dregs of society and hangs out in the wrong part of town. Mocked by the establishment, he is adored by the people. His Story, the musical, brings this iconic story into the third millennium with a contemporary voice and timeless perspective that engages the essential struggles of our global humanity, reminding all of the universal power of love and redemption. The show is being directed by 2-time Tony nominee Jeff Calhoun. He says, I've worked on 17 Broadway musicals, but nothing prepared me for the shock and awe of meeting this truly amazing artist, Anna Brown. Anna's Gen Z perspective has made this familiar story youthful and contemporary, not exactly adjectives I had previously associated with the Bible. The show premieres publicly May 18th in Dallas, Texas at the new Broadway tent at Grandscape. The original concept recording of His Story the musical is available on Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, and all other major platforms. So what do you guys think about the concept of this show?
I mean, I watched the rehearsal or whatever, the behind the scenes thing that they posted in the article. And I like that it has this contemporary pop, hip hoppy, kind of feel, because I hope that it kind of connects with people in a new, fresh way and makes the Bible feel real and relatable and not just this old, outdated text that sits, on your grandma's end table or whatever. But I hope it also appeals to people who are not Christians, because we've talked about Christian movies and stuff before, and I hope that this isn't just a bunch of people who are already Jesus followers going to watch it. Obviously I hope they do, but I hope that they bring a friend, or that it appeals to those who aren't sure or are questioning or deconstructing or whatever. But I just hope that it appeals to a wider audience. And but I look at past Broadway performances like Godspell, Jesus Christ Superstar. Yeah, and so I know lots of people who wouldn't call themselves Christ followers who have seen those, so I don't know. I have hope. I have high hope.
Yeah, it might be the next big one.
It might. You don't know. I think it's interesting that they started in Texas and not New York Broadway, but I think I read in that same article that you posted that it's within a certain vicinity of lots of large churches, and it's in an area where there are a lot of people who would call themselves Christ followers. So I'm okay, that's good, but also let's hope that it goes out from there. So
yeah. So when I just read the title of the article, I was already face palming a little bit, just because I'm just so leery of Christian media, any kind of movie, TV show. I just struggle with that so much, because it just ends up being so often so bad and so cheesy and so reductive and religious people, good people. The enemy's always an atheist kind of thing going on. But the more I read about it, and I haven't had a chance to listen to all the songs yet or anything, but I'm all in. I think it's really encouraging that someone who is from the industry, not from the secular, or from the secular part of the industry, and Jeff Calhoun is in and said that this Anna Brown is so brilliant. And I think it's really awesome. I think that, we've talked before about churches using creativity to like rewrite Hamilton and put Jesus in it and stuff. And I'm like, no, this is creativity. This is bringing life and using a medium to tell this story that is so timeless. Like, I mean, I just think reading about Jeff Calhoun, who thought that, the idea of youthful and contemporary and compelling was not tied to the Bible. And it's always amazing because we do so well inside of the evangelical church sphere to put up so much scaffolding and so many other barriers to get to the heart of the story, which is Jesus. And Jesus is so compelling and so radical, and he was the original Rage Against the Machine. I mean, all these kind of things. And man, we just have to work so hard to cut through the other stuff to get to Jesus. But man, the story of Jesus, the person of Jesus, is so compelling and so powerful. Of course this story is going to resonate with people because this is the story. And so man, I hope that it finds an audience, and that it's a wide audience, and that people that had walked away from church or feel like church had walked away from them walk towards this, and then they ask questions like, why can I not escape this Jesus guy? And I think that's the story I hear often of people coming to our church or coming back to some kind of faith, and they're just like, I just can't escape Jesus. And I would say, you can't, because he's everything, and he's what you really need and want, and who you want to be like, and all those things. And so I hope that this is a medium that is powerful, that engages not just people, the faith community, but people that maybe just like musicals.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to talk about, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Atypical Talk Pod. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there, down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.